This episode of the Blerd Mob contains explicit language. While we want everyone to enjoy the show, sometimes we may say things that are not appropriate for all ages. So, in other words, mom, dad, granny, we cussing. Discretion is advised.
King G, Grow Site, ENT. Rock with it, rock with it, rock with it, rock with it. Let me pop my shit. Let me pop my shit. Hands up.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the first official episode of the Blerd Mob. I am your neighborhood Foot. For those listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or any other streaming service, make sure you hit that follow button so you can get more updates from the mob. Today, we're going to be talking about all things MCU Phase 4. So joining the mob today is my boy McMillian. What's up, McMillian?
What's good, everybody? What's good, Portia? I'm alright.
I'm doing good on this wonderful day. McMillian is a co-host of his upcoming podcast called Gurren Otaku Council. His co-host, Ace, is also supposed to be here today. He's running a little late, so hopefully we get some Ace action, some Ace and McMillian action. But before we get started, I just wanted to ask, how is you guys' podcast coming along?
It's going good. It's going good. We have one more shadow test video that we want to do, and then we have the planned animes we want to do for our list of the October release. That's when we plan on coming out. So look forward to us coming around sometimes within the first week of October or the second.
Nice. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into the conversation. How I want to do this, Jay, I want to start with the Phase 4 movies, and then we'll go into the Disney Plus shows, and then last thing I want to get into is that the upcoming movies and shows that are coming up for Phase 4. So let's go ahead and get started with these movies. So Phase 4 is supposed to be comprised, let me pull up my list, of 12 movies starting in 2021 and ending in 2023. We've already seen two of the movies, which is Black Widow that dropped in July, and Shang Chi, which dropped in this month, September. I'm getting my dates mixed up. And excuse me if I butchered that name. I think it's Shang Chi, if I remember correctly. Nice. So, how are you feeling about the movie so far?
Black Widow was good. I think Shang-Chi served a really good start for the new stuff of the Phase 4, considering Black Widow, was a prequel and everything. I think Shang-Chi definitely introduced itself well and holds its own with the already established universe, and has got me intrigued for what else is to come. So I think it's doing a good job.
I would agree with Shang-Chi. I almost feel like that should have just been the movie that started Phase 4. Because now that we've seen it, I don't know the value. I no longer see the value of Black Widow being the movie that starts off Phase 4. Other than the end credit scene and who Valentina is as a character from what we've seen from Falcon Winter Soldier, I'm not really sure how much value it adds. And then
the overall thing.
Overall, and I guess it's coming off of the fact that Black Widow is a prequel movie, and in the placement that it happened in, with it being a movie before Infinity War, it's kind of like, well, we know she's not gonna die in this movie, and with the villain being who it is, and then her dying after Endgame, it's really hard for us to fit in her movie into what's going to happen in the future. So I kind of feel like Shang-Chi should have just been the movie to kick off Phase 4. Because we get this new character, and then they're also... you can go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you because you thing, but I was like, I fully agree. In a way, I kind of look at it already as if it was the movie that set off Phase 4. I know that might be kind of messed up. But it's sort of like, since Black Widow was a prequel, it almost feels like it should have been within Phase 3 or something like that. I mean, like, well, a lot of people have already mentioned how it should have came out a long time ago. Like, it was way overdue, right?
Yeah.
So to me, Shang Chi kind of already represents the starting point to Phase 4, even if it wasn't I guess on the list of the first movie. It seemed like that was the plan anyway, and they just was like, oh wait, we needed to make this Black Widow film here.
I don't know if they even needed to make it. Like, why? I guess my question is, why did we need a Black Widow movie? Because of
I
when it
think
was released, why did we need a
the
solo
Black Widow
Black
film.
Widow film?
I don't know if it necessarily needs to come out when it came out. It should have. I definitely think it should have been sooner. The argument, I guess, of whether it was needed or not can be depend, I think, on the person. I personally think it would have been nice to have gotten a Black Widow slash Hawkeye movie more so if you're going to give, because they're like, I don't want to say they're the useless members or anything, because they both bring something to the team, or at least at the beginning they did. But their dynamic is somewhat the same. They're both members of Shield who are like specialized in covert ops slash assassination type missions. If you were going to give one a movie, why not just make it a buddy cop movie, considering they had that dynamic in the first place?
And that's a good point. I think that would have been, and even if they made that movie, I think that it should have been released in Phase 3.
Yeah.
Even if whether it was a buddy cop movie, Black Widow, Hawkeye, or just a Black Widow movie, I think it should have been released in the time period that the movie took place in, and maybe we would have gotten more value out of the movie because of that. And
No, I totally agree.
yeah, so I don't know. I feel like that movie being the movie to kick off Phase 4, I don't think it should have been the one. Getting down to the bottom line point. So,
Mm-hmm.
but Shang Chi, I feel like with Phase 4, because the big thing with Phase 4 for me is that Endgame has happened. We've lost some major heroes, and even watching some of the Disney Plus shows, which we'll get into in a minute, is that we're seeing this coming of age hero type. Like, who's going to be the next Iron Man? Who's going to be the next Captain America? Who's going to be the next whatever? And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it could even have been who's going to be the next Black Widow without really putting in the Black Widow movie. But you have all
Yeah.
of these questions like who's next up on the bench. And I think Shang-Chi gives us that, because we get these new heroes, we get this new character, and at the same time we're integrating everybody who's left from Phase 3 into the movie. And I feel like that's how it should have started. That's how Phase 4 should have been kicked off.
Yeah. No, one thing I really appreciated from this is that with Shang-Chi is the Marvel Universe is already established, and they didn't waste any time beating around the bush of that. They kind of, like, within like the first couple of minutes of the movie, somewhat of a spoiler, not really a spoiler, a small thing, but they mentioned how, it's been 3 years since like the events of the snap and stuff like that, and it came up in casual conversation. They talked about how they lost heroes and all this other stuff. So it's like they don't spend any time wasting on like these events happen. We're here to really learn more about like this character and what their implications in the world might be moving forward as we broaden the Marvel universe, basically.
That's
And
a
I
good
think
point.
it did a good job at it.
I actually like that they brought up, like in the first 5-10 minutes of the movie, the snap. Not only did it let us know like what time period is Shang-Chi happening in, but it still reminds us that even though we're in a new phase and we're seeing a new hero, we're still dealing with the after effects of it.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Yeah.
continuation of the universe, I agree. I like that they jumped in it, went straight ahead into it. So,
Yep. Yep.
and we've only seen 2 movies, but I kind of feel like Phase 4 is just Phase 1, or it's going to be Phase 1, but just enhanced.
Yeah, Phase One, the remix, basically.
Right, Phase 1 the remix. I don't think we're going to get a big villain because spoilers if you haven't seen Loki, small teensy bitty spoiler, but we know Kang the Conqueror is coming because of the Loki series.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really interested to see how everything plays together, but I don't think it's going to be like the Thanos level phase that we just saw these past couple years.
Yeah,
So
it'd be interesting to see. I want to know. Well, because Kang, even though I've read some of the comics, Kang isn't a character I'm like 100% familiar with, because he's more of like involved with the Fantastic Four, which is eventually supposed to be in this phase as well. Just it's like no one knows when or how it's gonna play about.
so it's
So
supposed to be
I'm
the last
interested.
movie, Fantastic
Yeah, well,
Four.
I mean, it's that and Blade.
Mm-hmm.
Those are like the two question marks kind of for this phase. But so I'm wondering like how they're gonna build up to him because like with Thanos, there is like, oh, here are these like roadblocks like along the way that led to Thanos, and for Kang, I'm just like, well, we kind of got a big reveal of him in the Loki series. What
Yeah.
are going to be like the small villains, the small but major villains that lead up to him? Because you know the Avengers had Loki, and then we had Ultron, and then eventually we got to like Thanos, and along the way there were like the small roadmaps, like a movie such as Guardians that tied us to space and expanded upon the Infinity Stones being a thing. So I wonder what are the roadblocks to Kang gonna be like?
That's a good point too, because looking at the movie list, from what I've heard, is that the next appearance of Kang the Conqueror is supposed to be in the next Ant-Man movie, and the
Mm-hmm.
next Ant-Man movie is not even supposed to premiere until 2023. So between now and 2023, that is our only known appearance of Kang the Conqueror. So that's a really good point of who they're gonna put in for like building blocks. If this is the major villain of Phase
Yeah,
One,
I mean they could be going about it a different way because a lot of the movies based on the list, I think for especially the older characters seem to be expounding upon who they are more or like what their implications might be later on throughout this journey within the MCU because the new movies seem to are like establishing characters and like what their roles might be, but like I guess Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, like what is Doctor? It seems based on just a little bit of what we got from the trailers or teasers of No Way Home that there's more mysticism probably be going to be going on in regards to the multiverse now and how that might play into everything. It's very interesting to see like where the current roster of heroes is what they're going to be up to and stuff like that, especially like with all the theories that are now developing from the Disney Plus shows.
that's true. And while you were explaining that, something that popped up in my head is, what if this phase is just a catch up phase? Because some of the movies that we are getting and the characters that they're focusing on, I wouldn't say they were sideline characters in the previous phases, but they weren't major. I would say they weren't major hitters in the
Hmm.
previous phases. So maybe
I mean, I
this
did.
phase is just building them up to be major hitters. And maybe the reason why Ant-Man is at the end of the phase is because now we've built everybody up. Here's the big villain. Now, how do we handle this big villain? And that may be going into phase 5. That that could be
Yeah,
what they're doing.
yeah. No, I agree. Considering a lot of the movies for this phase seem to be related to heroes that only in the last phase only got like one or two movies.
Right.
So, because most of our major characters got like at least three.
Mhm.
Some of them got like two and a half, kind of,
Yeah.
or or one and a half. I guess because Hulk only got one movie.
True, but a Hulk is a different type of
Yeah, it's legalities reasons and stuff like that.
legalities.
But yeah.
He's had a different journey.
Hmm. So I'm definitely based off of Shang Chi though. I am definitely say I'm looking forward to the rest of Phase 4 because I mean we've discussed it in private, but like I was telling you when I saw the trailer for the Eternals, nothing was really grabbing me that much because of just how like, oh, this is ancient group that like been on Earth for centuries and they're not allowed to get into big conflicts unless it has to deal with this ancient evil that they fight.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's cool, but like, how do they tie into everything? And then, we got to I'm not going to describe the scene because it's still, I mean, the movie is still in theaters. So,
Yeah.
people still, please go watch it. It's actually really good. Um, the end credit scene sets up somewhat for the Eternals. And I'm like, okay, now I'm actually engaged. I wish the trailer had done that, but it actually Shang-Chi actually did, I feel like, a good job of setting up for the next movie, which is good on its part. Like it's doing it. That end credit scene did, I felt like, what it was supposed to do and helps lay the foundation for the next thing to come. So
I was definitely about to bring that up because you and me had the same opinion of Eternals. Like, it wasn't all of the trailers that we're putting out, all of the clips or whatever, and all the news about it wasn't really hyping me up for Eternals. And then my number one question is like, where do they fit into all of this? These ancient beings that have been around here this whole time. The second question was like, where the hell have you guys been? Because folks been fighting for their lives. People have been fighting for their lives. Half of the universe got turned into Rillo packs. What have you guys been doing? Like, it was so many questions, and it was very hard for me to be excited for this movie other than the lingering questions that I had. So that end credit scene in Shang-Chi definitely boosted my interest to seeing that movie.
Yeah, I mean, even the events that happened in the movie also, like, I mean, we talked about it. Like, this isn't a theory episode, so I won't get into my theories. But the way the major villain, or the last villain, I'll say, of the Shang-Chi movie, even sprinkles somewhat hints of like how the Eternals might play out in the coming movies. So I'll say Shang-Chi, besides like being a great standalone, like, this is here's your new hero to this universe. He's a good character, all this, that, and the other. Did a really good job of still setting up like, oh, besides Thanos, who was a major threat, huge threat, there are still things to come, and we still have things to throw at you. So you don't have to worry about that. So I am now looking forward to Eternals, because with the added context that Shang-Chi gave to how they could be involved, I am definitely looking forward to see more. Well, like, at least interested to see their movie, for them to tell me more, like, why are they important as we move along in like this new phase.
Yep. And I want to go back to your point, McMillian, about, because something else that just popped in my head when you brought up that this phase seems to be more of mythicism in the multiverse. I think now that we've seen Shang-Chi, like, so first three phases were all about the Infinity Stones and these different stones and the different powers and all of the stories, whether they, in some sense, in some form, played into that. Mm-hmm. So now we have Shang-Chi, which is all of the mythicism with the monsters that were in the cave. And then you have Doctor Strange, the trailer that we seen from Doctor Strange and Spider-Man. All of the multiverse stuff. It seems like it's establishing the theme for it. That before, here's the Infinity Stones, and now this phase is going to be more magic, mythicism, and then with the Eternals being these ancient beings because they've been here. Like, even going to the Mandarin, the real Mandarin in Shang-Chi, he's been here for like this whole time. They've been here this whole time. So now we're going to be exploring the ancient part of the MCU.
Yeah.
Outside of North mythology, like Thor, you got a little bit, but I think like the Eternals and the Mandarin's history is going to give you that we're on Earth. Here's what we've been doing since like the beginning type thing, and here's how it's going to play into the future.
This stuff to come. Yeah, actually, you know what? That's a good point. I didn't even think in the regards to like the past, the present observation you just made. I was just more of like, I know we're hitting more mystic arts type and multiversal type stuff this stride around. Like last time, it was more kind of like physical. Like I mean, like for instance, Iron Man is a man who decided to make a suit of armor. Captain America is a guy who got like super amazing steroids. Like it was like more. It was a lot more physicality in stuff, and like we didn't really get mysticism and stuff till we like introduced Doctor Strange, and we got more heavily into the stones and like how they affected the universe, but it wasn't like touching anything besides like their own universe. Now we got like the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer slash teasers, and now we know, oh, there is a multiversal stuff. Or you get into Loki and you see the end of it, and you're like, oh, there's a lot more that could potentially be happening as we move forward through the phases. And I think what Shang-Chi did was a good establishing, like, hey, there's a lot, even without like touching on the multiverse stuff, there's a lot more in this universe that we still haven't explored yet. And I think that was a good way to start.
And even going into WandaVision was the same thing, because how we see Wanda and Quicksilver get their powers in Ultron, it was like they were experiments and they got enhanced by this Infinity Stone. But what WandaVision did was they included that story, but they basically just broke out like it's this whole other conspiracy surrounding your powers. Like it's not, you just didn't get this super boost from an Infinity Stone. You're a whole mythic being. Like there is a whole origin story to who you actually are. So
yeah, and it definitely helped explain her powers were, because I feel like if they weren't going to touch on it, a lot of people are going to be like, what is up with the hand waving stuff? Is it like psychic or not? And so I thought it did a good job of it. If we're going to touch a little bit on WandaVision, I think adding the mysticism there was also a good point to do so, because a lot of people, I'm pretty sure, already had questions on like what exactly is Wanda's powers, because she's, other than they've changed it in the comics now to kind of fit the MCU, but like she wasn't a mutant, so it's not like they could be like, oh yeah, she is like she can structure the molecules of the universe like she could when she was a mutant. They had to come up with something else.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So we've already started talking about WandaVision and we touched a little bit on Loki. So I'm going to go ahead and divert the conversation to the Disney Plus shows. So for Phase 4, there's supposed to be 13 Disney Plus shows. Same time period, 2021 to 2023. We've already seen 4, and we're about to get the 5th, Hawkeye, November 24th.
Yeah, just got the teaser for that. What, like last week, I think?
Yep. Well, it's Monday. I want to say it was Monday. We got that teaser.
Okay.
But what I want to know is, how have you been feeling? Because the Disney Plus shows, they are new, they are refreshing, but at the same time, these aren't the only Marvel shows that we've seen. So,
true.
How are you feeling about the Disney Plus shows versus what we've already seen?
Okay, so I'm not gonna go off on a tangent, but Portia gave me this platform. Someone just mentioned this. Agent Carter was robbed. That was an amazing show, and they need to bring it back. All right. So that was my side note. I'm gonna give it to what we talking about. So Wanda. So I'll just go through briefly. I think WandaVision is probably some of the best television I've ever seen. That the way they blended like the past to present type thing, and it never felt stale. Like there were certain times where like the jokes kind of ran a little bit too long, but I think overall the way they did it was so unique and well crafted. That was like really good. I think out of all the Marvel projects besides maybe Loki, that was like some of my favorite type of television. Like the way they just went in, because it was a show about superheroes, but it was more of like a character study of Wanda herself, the whole entire thing, and the way they went about it was beautiful. Like there are very few notes I could give it. Like everybody felt real. They humanized Vision. I mean, he was already kind of humanized in the movies, but they really went into him himself as well. Considering I mean, I'm not gonna spoil it, but considering what he was, so like the Marvel. I've been very impressed with the Disney Plus show so far. Even What If, which is currently out, because if you're an animation fan, and if you've ever seen like DC animation movies shows are like king when it comes to like what they do, and Marvel has always kind of been rocky, like it's hit or miss with them. Like they're either good or they're bad. They've never been like in between. And What If has been surprisingly refreshing. The animation is solid, and the storytelling is fun and vibrant at times. Like it's really interesting. And even with the Hawkeye teaser, I'm somewhat looking forward to that show because Portia mentioned it in our group chat, but it reminded me of Home Alone. It reminded her of Home Alone, and Home Alone is like one of my favorite Christmas movies. And I think if you're going to tell the story about, I'm sorry, he's the least of it interesting Avenger. I don't. I apologize if you're a Hawkeye fan. You got a bunch of Hawkeye posters in your room. That's not my testimony. I apologize. I apologize right now, but like the way I actually got interested in the storyline they were going to tell from that trailer. I was already interested because Kate Bishop is an interesting character to me because of just how I don't know that much of her, but what I do know of her, she seems like a really interesting character. So I was interested to see that dynamic in the first place. But besides that, they actually made me interested in the show. And if you've seen Black Widow, there's also another reason to be interested in the show.
Yes,
but
that was my reasoning.
Like, I'll say this: the Disney Plus shows have really been doing well. But also, one little sidebar: if you remember at the beginning when they announced Phase 4, unfortunately, they said that these shows would not be important to the movies.
They lied.
They lied.
They lied. They lied.
If you watch Loki, well, technically any of them you could say are important to the movies, but Loki especially has ramifications that affect the entire cinematic universe
that we just discussed. We just discussed the room. If it did not click, the Kang the Conqueror reveal that we just discussed. If it didn't click, that was a ramification. You know now.
But that's the biggest one because the thing that happens at the end of WandaVision could be explained in the movie. The stuff that happened at the end of Loki, unless they put in this time on Loki before the movie, which would be terrible. You have to watch Loki. Like you at least have to see that one, if any of them. Like that one, you have to. I feel like you have to watch because you're gonna be lost when probably by the time. I mean, like for instance, he's supposed Kang the Conqueror is supposed to make an appearance, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantum. I don't know how they're going to explain him unless it's just going to be a standalone thing. But like the Loki has a huge ramifications by the end of it for the entire MCU. But besides that, I think the Disney Plus shows have been done really well. They've obviously been treated with the utmost care, and I'm very excited for other ones like that I'm super interested in, such as like Secret Invasion and Ironheart, as well as there's supposed to be a Wakanda series coming. I'm not sure what the focus on that is, but I'm down for some more Wakanda stuff. It's on the list of stuff.
Is it that Moon Knight one that we're looking at?
Oh no! I am excited for Moon Knight, but that's that no one know. They don't have like a year on that one. So the list I have up on my computer right now is their stuff.
The list I have has years.
Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was about to say the one I have for some of it is like they go to Secret Invasion, Ironheart, Armor Wars, and they mention an untitled Wakanda series, which is like to be announced.
That must be new then. We might be looking at some different lists, but that's interesting though. I would be down for a Wakanda based series though. Anything to learn more about Wakanda, Black Panther, everything behind their technology and whatnot. I think any chance to learn more about that would be great. But I totally agree with you. I think the Disney Plus shows have been great. Awesome, to say the least. Great storytelling. A deeper dive into the sideline characters that really didn't get to their big moments in the previous phases. So, Wanda, Vision, Bucky, Falcon, Loki. We always see Loki a certain way. We started to look at him different towards the end of the phase, but the Loki series really gave us a different outlook on Loki and his morals and what kind of person he is. And I think it was really interesting, and not to spoil the show too much, but it was really interesting to see that character grow from a Loki that we hadn't seen in the movies. Because this is the Loki
Definitely,
that
yeah.
we encountered in Avengers 1. And for him to take that leap, that change to where he was kind of sort of going in that direction towards the end of Phase 3 was nice to see.
Yeah.
And I want to say that Marvel has evolved from the shows that we've seen before. Just to touch on a couple, because you touched on Agent Carter. Don't kill the messenger, but I didn't watch Agent Carter. But
Hey,
I
you
heard
good.
it.
It
I heard it was
wasn't.
really good. I heard it was really good.
Yeah. No, I feel like out of the, it didn't have the best time slot or anything. Like I was watching it on, I think it was Hulu or whatever. Like I didn't even catch it while it was airing, but it was really good, and I was surprised that they canceled it because it had a lot of room to grow.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people liked Agents of Shield. I could
My
not get
dad-
past the first season.
My dad was watching that. So my dad really liked Agent Carter and Agents of Shield. Once he got into it, he couldn't stop watching it. But I couldn't. I couldn't get into it. Marvel shows that I watch, Cloak and Dagger, The Gifted, Runaways. Runaways is, yeah, I'm not gonna touch on that, but those shows that explore different characters. And even The Gifted being a X-Men series that didn't focus on the main X-Men characters that we were used to seeing, but like that next generation, that was interesting to see. And those shows were great. I liked them. Runaways, But I think the Disney Plus shows, like I said, they're refreshing. It's a new look, and I think what gets me the most is that these shows play into the MCU. They're the same characters that we've seen before. They're dragging in the storylines from the movies that we've seen. With all of this being like pre-Endgame, it's been nice. I want to touch on Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's my least favorite one. I didn't dislike it, but the big thing that I really liked about Falcon and the Winter Soldier was the realism that it gave of the aftermath from the snap and then everybody coming back. Because in WandaVision, it is post-Endgame, but we're dealing with Wanda as a person post-Endgame in her own little world in this one section of the entire universe. Falcon and the Winter Soldier dealt with like, this is how it affected everybody.
Yeah.
Like, this is the kind of political stuff that we would have to deal with had this actually happened. And it touched on points like people moving into houses, like people, the smallest of the problems was like people were moving into like homes after the snap. And then when the snap came back, as we know, that everybody just popped up in the same place that they disappeared in. So now you have half of the population popping up in other people's houses. It was like, you see that it's a lot to deal with.
Yeah, so not to cut you off, I'm sorry if I cut you off. So if you got some more to say, go ahead. I could get to the point later.
Well, you can go ahead and get started. Ace is actually in the waiting room, so we're going to
okay.
let
All right. So I was.
We're gonna let in
all right.
Ace.
So while he's coming in, hello, Ace.
Hello, Ace. Thanks for joining us.
What I was just gonna say is, there's this show called Manifest. I won't get into deep into the plot, but something similar to the snap happens in that show, and it deals with people coming back, and they're like, "Oh, my spouse is married to somebody different. Oh, there's someone living in my house." What like it? It's like the way they handled Falcon and the Winter Soldier is somewhat similar to how that show the first couple of episodes of that show went, and I thought that was a good way of showing the ramifications of the snap, because a lot of times in movies when a big event happens, it's just like, hey, it gets solved off screen, let's move on. But they actually took time to show and develop how that affected the world at large, because as we know, the snap didn't just affect like people in America. It was a thing that happened across the universe and the world. And while we haven't seen the greater universe ramifications, we probably won't see that till maybe like Guardians, like how it affected other planets. But like at least we got to see in Falcon and Winter Soldier how it affected Earth, and I think that was like very important.
Yeah, And that's what I really liked about it. And the other thing, and I find this funny, the other thing that Falcon and the Winter Soldier pointed out is that these heroes are broke. Everybody's broke. Like
Tony Stark.
Tony
was
Stark
covering
was
that
the
bankroll.
bank. Tony Stark was the bank. And you look at it, it's like, yeah, these guys are broke. So, touching back on the Disney Plus shows, you talked about What If, and I definitely want to hit on that. The animation in What If has been amazing. Like you said, Marvel's animation has been a hit and a miss. And the only two animated Marvel films that I have enjoyed are Planet Hulk and Into the Spider-Verse. Those are the only two animated Marvel movies that I've really enjoyed. And seeing
Into the Spider-Verse ain't even
right,
Marvel
it's
movie.
not
like
really
Sony.
even Marvel, but
yeah.
What If has been refreshing. The animation and the storytelling is really they are on DC's neck with the animation. They are. If they continue this way and if they start expanding into movies, they're coming for DC's neck. Now, DC, I love their animation, but I feel like after this they're going to have to step it up. They're going to have to step it up. But
yeah.
All right, Ace, can you hear us?
That I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. How you doing today, brother?
Doing good. How y'all doing today?
I'm doing good.
All right.
Sorry for the delay, but I am here now.
It is all good. I'm glad you could join us. But we're talking about the Disney Plus shows, and I want to get your opinion on how you feel about them thus far.
I've been enjoying them so far. WandaVision definitely popped off. Probably still the best Disney Plus show to date since what they put out. Captain and the Falcon Soldier, I definitely like that. I caught the end of what y'all was saying about the ramification.
And the Falcon Soldier.
you know what I know what I meant though. We're gonna let it slide. We're gonna let that one slide. I caught the end what you were saying. You know how we got to see the ramifications of the snap in that one, and I did like the aspects of that. And then what we got left, Loki was definitely good. I definitely like Loki because, as you all know, that was the start of the multiverse. Didn't expect that to happen, but it did. So here we are. And then now we have the What If series, which I definitely been enjoying. I haven't seen all of them yet. I just ain't seen the last two, but I have been enjoying them so far. They've been really good.
Yeah.
Definitely senses the fact that they're actually showing stories within the multiverse, which is a good thing. So I think it's beautiful. It's not necessarily a what if, it's just more of it's really just these are other stories that's going on in the multiverse, really.
Yeah. But technically it kind of is like a what if. The other thing that I like about What If is that it ends with like another what if question. It's kind of like their theme. Here's this what if that we're exploring, and then they wait at end. It's like, oh, what if they did this, or what if they happened that? I kind of like the way they've been ending it. The other thing with the What If series, a second half trailer came out a couple days ago, and it looks like that they're going to be doing a sort of team up crossover episode with all of the what ifs that we've seen before and putting them in one episode.
I must have missed that.
Interesting. I've seen the trailer, but I guess I just didn't pay attention fully.
Yeah, it's
I missed the trailer,
they're bringing it's both Doctor Strange, Captain Carter, T'Challa, Star-Lord. I think the zombies are supposed to be in it as well. And I think that was the thing all along, that all of these episodes were supposed to lead up into one big team up episode, but that trailer really solidifies that that's where they're going for.
Okay, I'm about to check it out.
That's interesting. I think the T'Challa one was definitely a good episode.
Star-Lord, T'Challa, Star-Lord?
T'Challa, Star-Lord, yeah, that was a good one. Especially, I mean, because I was wondering how they was going to pull that what if off. So, they gave a decent explanation. So, it was one like, okay, yeah, I'll take that. I'll give y'all that one. I'll let y'all slide with that. But then, like, one of the big things that surprised me that episode, it was just like the whole Thanos thing. And I'm just like, are we... Is this what we're doing?
That was my favorite. That was like the biggest plot twist. Like,
yeah, okay. I'm like, okay,
him
so
just
not
sitting
only
down and cooperating.
I'm like, so not only did this man become Star-Lord, this man stopped Thanos, single-handedly stopped Thanos from
Right.
destroying half the universe. I think that was just, like you said, a good little touch right there. And then, like you said, just the fact that him just sitting there cooperating and everything, it's just weird. Like, Thanos is cooperating
No
with
stones.
us.
I like the running joke in it.
Yeah, no, that was good.
You talking about, everybody was like, it's just genocide, guy.
Yeah, him explaining his plan to everybody, and they were like, "Dog, that sounds like genocide." He was like, "But it's effective." I was like, "No, that doesn't change the fact that it's genocide, yo."
He was trying to let y'all know, but it was gonna be effective though.
I definitely like when they did it when he dropped in Wakanda and he's explaining to Okoye his plan, and she was like,
that sounds like genocide. You know, yeah, that was crazy. I think, the whole Thanos running bit was probably the best part of this. It was second best part because T'Challa, is T'Challa. He stole the episode, of course. But I like how they pulled that. I think
it was an interesting take too.
Yeah, definitely
to explore T'Challa's character with him not being king or him wearing the mantle of Black Panther. Like, what could he be if he was as free and as explory as Star-Lord was? And I think they did a really good job, because even though he was the outlaw type, he still had his morals, like his Wakandan morals, like the right and wrong, and we should be helping people, and etc. So
yeah, he did.
But now let's get into the upcoming Disney Plus shows and Phase 4 movies. So, what are you guys looking forward to for Phase 4?
Doctor Strange. Hands down. Doctor Strange too.
Out of what they've shown so far, if I'm going to go by like trailers, I am definitely interested in Doctor Strange too. Spider-Man I'm interested in, but that's more of like nostalgic reasons. Like, because Spider-Man 2, with Tobey Maguire, that's like still my favorite live action Spider-Man movie. Like nothing. So the fact that I got to see Doc Ock again, I'm like, yes. 10-year-old me is like, oh yes, he's back. So, but besides that, Wakanda Forever, I'm super interested in, because it's supposed to be introducing Iron Man's protege, Ironheart, and also I'm with all the things surrounding, Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace. I'm really interested to see how they deal with that and move forward from it. Like, will there be another Black Panther?
Yeah.
How will all that? How will all that like play into the greater MCU? Like, Wakanda was already making strides to kind of be more inclusive in the world with the subsequent disappearance. Because I don't know how they're gonna address Chadwick passing in the movie. Like, if they're gonna just say that T'Challa died, or if he's missing or something, how that'll affect that as well. So it'd be really interesting to see how they move forward from everything. So based on like the real world ramifications, I'm interested, but also the MCU ramifications of like everything that surrounds that, I'm also interested in that as well.
That's a good point, because this would be the first time that this is the first time that the MCU will be tackling a real actor death into the universe. So as long as they don't do it like Fast and the Furious did, I think we'll be fine.
I think we'll be fine. I think they have
rest
to.
in peace to Paul Walker, but I think like
they have to.
It goes into the issue. Real quick. I'm gonna touch on this real quick. It just goes into the issue of that they don't stop making movies, and every time they make a movie, they put Paul Walker's character in it, and it's kind of like, okay,
in sentences or stuff, or like he's driving his car. Yeah, it is kind of odd. I like the trick, because for the movie when he did pass, they had a little tribute at the end. I thought that was tasteful.
But they were mid-filming.
It's just
so
yeah.
But I think after that they should have let it go, or they should have did it differently if they were going to continue to involve him. But the only reason I brought that up is because you did bring up a good point with Chadwick Boseman's passing, and how are they going to deal with that in the movie and with Phase 4 going forward, because Black Panther, how it started how they integrated him into Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame, he had the potential to become the next powerhouse of the new generation of Marvel heroes. And
potential,
the fact,
a definite potential leader to the next Avengers. Well, if we still have the Avengers, but like the next Avengers and stuff like that, he could have been a very influential voice on the team. So it'll be interesting to see how they. I don't want to say recover because in my head that doesn't sound too good, but like how they'll move forward, I guess, with that project.
That's a good way to put it.
And I would have to agree with Push. I would hope that they don't go the Paul Walker route. I just think they need to lay it on the rest somehow respectfully throughout the movie and just like Portia said, just be done with it. Because every time we don't want to be every time we bring up Black Panther, it's just R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman that we bringing him up every single time, and it's just like, well, we know he can't appear because he's not here anymore. So we just like Portia said, we just need to lay him down respectively and just move on.
Yeah.
Right. Or every time we mention Wakanda, they bring up, well, T'Challa sent us this. Yeah. Well, T'Challa really didn't. Why is he sending y'all stuff and not helping you guys with stuff? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And then it's just like, if especially him being the king and everything, it's just like, how would you pull that off with him being the king of Wakanda now?
Yeah.
And like, he can't govern Wakanda without being in Wakanda, so they're gonna have to lay him down respectfully and just like Portia said once again, just let it go, and just let it go. But yeah, that's all I had on that.
Besides the other ones I mentioned, I just want to mention one more. The Marvels I'm also somewhat interested in because Photon. I'm definitely interested to see what they're gonna do with Photon. I forget her real name. She was in
Monica Rambeau.
WandaVision. Monica Rambeau.
There you go.
And also, Miss Marvel will be introduced in her own series and eventually, and then show up in that movie.
Oh, so will that be a Disney Plus series?
Yeah, Miss Marvel's will be a Disney Plus series.
Okay.
So I'm interested to see how that one will also play out, especially considering Captain Marvel. Like we've already somewhat discussed it a little bit, but like Captain Marvel's movie was so like kind of like lackluster, in points. I would like to see how it is when she's like, when it's not like, oh, I'm trying to establish this character, but this character is already a thing. Let's see how this, how she works, how she operates, especially when she has like a team surrounded her. So I would like to see how that moves forward, especially with I won't say what she was doing, but she makes an appearance in Shang Chi at some point, and so.
Well, like even to like not even say what she was doing, because if you've seen Shang Chi and when Captain Marvel appears, we still don't know what she's been doing.
Oh, that's true.
You're referring to Captain Marvel. Okay.
So,
well,
I mean, her hair grew back. We know that happened.
Well, I guess. Well, speaking of Shang-Chi, I almost said once. Speaking of Shang-Chi, when do you guys think this movie takes place in the timeline? Because I want to say it takes place after Endgame. Most definitely.
It's definitely after Endgame.
It's definitely after Endgame.
At the beginning of the movie. Yeah,
because they had that little talk when it was inside the bar, and she was like, "We know we live in a world now where half the universe can disappear and with the snap." I figured from that line that it took place after Endgame, but I just they just never really confirmed it. But like I said, I just took it from that.
I'm not sure where because all the Disney Plus shows have taken place after Game. If you're talking about that timeline, I'm not sure where it falls in between the series.
Well, no, I'm not necessarily talking about the Disney Plus series. Just saying, like, because it's either taking place during the 5-year span of Endgame or directly after Endgame, and so
it's after. Okay. Yeah, it's after.
I mean, to Alex's point, I mean, we can guesstimate all we want, but we really don't know like when officially all of these are taking place.
Are we talking Shang-Chi spoilers here?
No.
We're trying to be as very light.
Okay.
Very light if possible.
All right. So I'm gonna leave that point alone then.
It's okay. We can talk about it.
It's one other thing that happened towards the end. It's just like, well, are we after Endgame or not? But it's just like I said, I'll just say that one.
I would say we are. And I would say we are. To not give too many spoilers, the end credit scene definitely confirmed that this is after for one specific reason.
Well, that's what That's what I'm talking about. It could be, but it's all right. But other than spoilers, Shang-Chi overall was definitely a good movie. It was definitely Marvel did their thing. You know, they came out and showed me why I should care about Shang-Chi. It had a lot of Bruce Lee type, Jackie Chan type action in it, so I think that was good. And it was just an overall good movie. So I think Marvel did a very good job with Shang-Chi.
I feel like Alex just wanted to sneak that in there because we're definitely talking about what we're looking for Phase 4.
I mean, what we're talking about, but we started talking about shit.
And Alex wanted to sneak in. He thought Shang-Chi was a really good. It is. But he wanted to go ahead and sneak that in there.
It's part of Phase 4, though. It's part of Phase 4, though.
He missed the beginning conversation.
Yeah, you got to show up. You got to show up on
it's okay.
time.
I had to get my 2 cents in.
He had to slide that in there real quick, but
real quick,
real smooth.
But as far as the overall Phase 4, definitely, I'm waiting to see what Eternal's talking about. A lot of these trailers ain't really been catching my maybe this very last trailer really caught my interest in all the other ones, but I'm really waiting to see what the ramification of the Eternals will have on the MCU now, because you know, where have y'all been all this time? You know, in the trailer it was like, well, we can't interfere with human problems. Well, okay, whatever. But now that y'all here, what does this mean? Are the Celestials coming back now the Eternals are coming? Or do we have to deal with Galactus or something sometime in the future because the Eternals are coming? Like, what is going on? Why are we here? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Sure.
I think Ace started with the Doctor Strange movie being the one he was looking forward to. And that's one I'm looking forward to. Having Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, Wanda being who she is now, and Loki in the same movie. Yes.
I'm calling it.
And touching on the fact that when they first announced the movie, that they said it's going to be a horror type film. And the third circling rumor, I only seen it once, that Wanda is going to be a possible villain in this movie.
I called it.
So there's a lot of factors that is making me very excited for this movie. So that's my number one pick for what's coming up. Definitely Black Panther and Blade.
I forgot about Blade.
And lastly, I want to say Thor: Love and Thunder. The fact that they're bringing Natalie Portman back, that she's going to be a female Thor, and where is this going to fit in? And also, what is this fourth Thor movie going to? Because he's given up the throne of Asgard to Valkyrie. Last thing we saw
supposed to be a member
of the Guardians of the Galaxy now.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how they play that into his movie.
Yeah.
And if, and you may know more than me, Jay, based on the comics, if Natalie Portman being Thor plays into the multiverse thing that they have going on for this phase.
You know, I didn't even consider it. This could, based on, we're not going to spoil it, but watch Loki. Watch Loki. Well, I didn't even think of that. You're right. It could be that. Oh, wow.
So those are my top 4 picks.
This is solid. I think everyone here has some solid stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not really excited. I'll go ahead and go into what I'm not excited for, or they need to give me, or I just need to see the trailers to get into it. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. The first Guardians of the Galaxy was great. Loved it. The second one was I won't say that I didn't like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but it didn't give me that same feeling as Guardians of the Galaxy 1. And
I can understand that, because 2 was a lot more to deal with the explanation of why Peter could hold an Infinity Stone in the first place.
Yeah.
It was more like that. I mean, I'm not saying it was bad. I enjoyed it as well. Like, before anybody starts saying, like, oh, he didn't like it. I enjoyed both Guardians of the Galaxy movies. But 2, if you gotta admit, 2 was not as good as 1. It had a lot of character growth moments, and I like that about it. But it still wasn't as finite, well-written story as 1, because it felt like partway through 2, it felt like, oh, we need an excuse for Rocket and Groot to meet back up with the rest of the crew. the Ravengers.
The Ravengers.
Right. So that's the only reason I need to see the trailer. Oh my. I need to see the trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 to actually say, okay, I'm feeling it. Captain Marvel 2, it's because what Jay said before is with Captain Marvel was kind of like a lackluster movie. So I'm interested to see, because there's a lot of elements that can play into Captain Marvel 2 that could hold my interest, but I have to see how they're going to play on it, because at the end of the first Captain Marvel, the villain of the movie, I can't remember his name, she let him go. She sent them back to their planet or whatever, and was basically like, tell your master to F off. So she did that at the end of the first movie. But that was like in the 90s, and we don't see the ramifications from that. 2, Monica Rambeau becoming Photon, and the beef, I don't want to call it a big beef, but the tension that we felt when they brought up Captain Marvel to Monica
anybody
Rambeau.
asked her about it?
They asked, like, you could feel the tension, and then it's like, oh, so they got beef. Like, what's up? What's going on with that?
Well, I mean, if I could make any guesses, that it was her godmom, and she did just kind of peace out, and her mom, was dealing with cancer and all this, that, and the other. So she could hold like a
resentment,
where were you type. Like where the heck were you? You know. So.
Or you only came back when everybody
these
started
people needed you
and stuff. And that's
but not your family.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of factors that they could put into this Captain Marvel 2 movie. I just need to know where they're going with it. And hoping that it doesn't turn out to be the lackluster type of thing that it was in Phase 3. And also, where does she play in with all of this multiverse stuff going down?
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see, because I feel like the end of Multiverse of Madness is really going to have some major ramifications for,
or maybe even Spider-Man,
the series as a whole. I mean, Spider-Man definitely. I feel like Spider-Man is the hat tip to Multiverse of Madness almost.
Okay,
so that's why I think the end of it will definitely have ramifications. It's just I feel like it's more leading to Multiverse of Madness, because it kind of kicked off the whole. Well, not it. Well, most of Loki kicked off the multiverse thing, but this has really opened the doorway to stuff's getting crazy.
Yeah,
I would especially agree. From like the trailer.
So I would agree. I think the rest of them I'm looking forward to. Weirdly enough, I'm excited for Ant-Man. I would say Ant-Man 1, I did like it, but it was Ant-Man 2 for me. I guess when they introduced, well, she was already introduced, but when you get Ant-Man in the Wasp, in the teamwork, and then her character, I really enjoyed that. And then you tie in the quantum realm with all of that. And so I'm kind of excited for Ant-Man. But going into the Disney Plus shows that I'm excited for, I would have to say, I don't know. I guess because of the private conversations I've had with you, McMillian, is Secret Invasion, Ironheart being her being Iron Man's protege, and the fact that she's going to show up in Wakanda forever. I don't know. Hawkeye, I am excited for Hawkeye because of Black Widow. So in a sense, Black Widow has value because of what I feel like is going to go down in the Hawkeye series. But I don't know. I guess the rest of them, I won't say I'm not interested. I think I just need to see like the teaser trailers and stuff to see, is this the type of show that I want to watch? Is this the type of character that I really want to dive into? And I may just watch it anyway, because they broke the rules and said that these shows weren't going to have any effect on the MCU. Because they broke that rule, it's kind of like now we have to watch these shows.
Almost, yeah.
Because you broke the rule once, you could break it again. And if I just decide to skip one of these shows and you do the same thing that you did in Loki, I'm going to be upset. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
pissed.
I mean, yeah, you got to.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily they're on a streaming service, so you can play catch up. But yeah, still, it's
Right.
like, oh man, I could have known this. I could have went into this movie knowing about this that happened in this series.
Exactly.
So did Marvel say that from the beginning that the Disney Plus series was not supposed to have ramifications on the MCU?
They said at the beginning, I believe when they were talking about Phase 4, and maybe someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember him saying that to watch the movies, you will not have to have watched these shows.
I
mean,
think
well,
I
I
remember
guess-
that too.
In a sense, I
in
get
a
what they're
sense-
saying, but I mean,
Well,
at the
I would-
same time, I mean, just starting off with WandaVision, it's just like what happened in that. It's just like, how can I?
But I could see
See-
WandaVision as, I guess, the only thing I would say about WandaVision, because I see where Ace is going, and technically I agree, because of the power jump. So,
And well,
Well,
I mean, if she is showing up in Multiverse of Madness as a villain, although
Right.
if she does show up as a villain, I don't think she's going to be a villain from the beginning.
no.
It'll probably happen halfway through or something like
Or
that.
it may
'cause-
be something in the beginning and then she humbles out towards the end.
Something
But,
like that.
but then again, we're making all of these assumptions, going back to Ace's point, we're making all of these assumptions based on WandaVision because of the power jump that she got. So, I don't know, maybe, because I do remember them saying that it wasn't going to have ramifications on the MCU, but maybe they took a step back and really looked at it and was like, nah, fuck it. You gotta watch these shows. And
we finna do it.
and I'm gonna step outside the MCU and I'm just gonna go Disney. That is a power money move for Disney.
Yeah,
Having these
most definitely,
shows have
100%.
ramifications on the MCU, you're gonna get this Disney Plus subscription
100%.
so you can catch up on these shows. And that's
100%.
where I feel like they were like, fuck it.
Yeah, because I mean, especially because first of all, Loki has so many ramifications on itself with the MCU,
Yeah,
and then
that's-
they're coming out with a season 2 for that. It's just like, how am I not supposed to be able to watch these and not know what's going on in the MCU? It's just at this point, it's just like in some instances, like yes, I can see what y'all are saying, but it's just like some certain shows, and just like I said, especially locally, it's just there's no way I'm gonna just be watching the movies, but like, oh, well, what happened?
Yeah,
What are we doing
that
here?
makes sense to me. Yeah, so
it's just
I don't
wild.
know. So I kind of feel like we're trapped now. You have to watch all of the series, like even if you're not looking forward to
Interested
them,
in them,
it's like
yeah.
you have to watch them at this
Mhm.
point. I think
Yeah.
the only one, and putting out what if, because what if is kind of a series of its own. But looking at the 3 live action ones, I would think the show that has the least ramifications is Falcon and the Winter Soldier on the MCU.
as a whole, yeah,
As a whole,
probably.
I think
Yeah.
that's the one
It's
that
more-
has the least
Yeah.
ramifications.
Because like with that one, you cannot watch Captain and the Winter Soldier, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and still come back and be like, oh, okay, so he's Captain America now. You know, you don't necessarily need to watch.
Yeah, because if you've seen Endgame,
That for
you
that.
kind of knew that was going to happen anyway. It
Correct.
was more if you miss Captain Falcon and Winter Soldier, the only thing you wouldn't know is how Bucky and Sam's relationship grew,
Correct.
and also that there might be another character eventually showing up to cause some problems.
Correct.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's probably one of the only ones that you can be like, okay, you can skip this one and still be fine with the MCU.
I think they're going to actually expand on that, because looking at these lists
They're
of
gonna have to.
movies, they're going to have to. But another reason they're going to have to, looking at this list of movies, we don't get a solo Falcon or Bucky movie.
No, we're probably not gonna get.
They might pop
I'll
up
be
in somebody
surprised
else's
if we get
movie.
one of them. It's like
But
we know we're not
I'm
getting one
coming
for
from
Phase
the
4.
I'm coming from the standpoint that, and you don't even have to watch the series to know this, but coming off of Endgame, Cap passed the mantle
Correct.
to Falcon. So I don't know. Maybe their thing's just gonna get expanded in the series, and they just may pop up in other people's movies. And it goes back to the point I was making before of where the central theme of this phase being the multiverse and the mystic arts, they don't really play into that.
Mhm.
Captain America, if they were going this route in phase 3, I don't think Captain America would have been a heavy hitter like he was, because they don't tie into that.
Yeah.
So they may get a movie going forward, but now that I'm thinking about it, I can understand why they're not getting a solo type film in this phase.
Yeah. Is this? I mean, I really wouldn't. Since I'm looking at Phase 4 as basically like the next startup, phase for MCU, kicking off their next generation. And with that being said, I'm not sure where a solo Falcon movie would actually fit in to this phase, especially with all the movies that's already been lined up and what they're going to bring to the MCU. I just don't see where they would actually put that right now.
And that just goes back to maybe what the theme of this phase is.
Mm-hmm.
And they, even in the show, like, you have WandaVision that's touching on the mystic arts. You have Loki that's touching on the multiverse. Where they were touching on in that show, you could have possibly gotten a WandaVision and a Loki crossover, but you couldn't fit Falcon and the Winter Soldier into that because it doesn't fit. They don't fit into that.
Yeah. It was just here's Sam's story taking over the mantle of Captain America. Which will have ramifications on the MCU because he's going to be the next Cap. But as far as the multiverse and everything, he doesn't really fit in there for the time being.
The only movie I could see them popping up in is maybe Ant-Man, because they've teamed up with Ant-Man before.
Correct.
In Civil War.
Yeah.
That's the only, and that all of these other movies seem to be happening like in their own space.
Correct.
So it seemed like if they were to touch down in any one of these movies, I think Ant-Man would be the one that they would touch down in.
That seems like the only logical one as well. Because, I mean, at this point, what would Ant-Man 3 even be about? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Because Ant-Man, it's coming towards the end of Phase 4, right?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. So maybe we'll be doing some more Quantum Realm stuff. Who knows?
I don't know.
It's called Quantumanium, so
yeah, it is Quantumanium. So the fact that they've used the quantum realm to time travel, the multiverse stuff is coming. Touching back on Kang the Conqueror, he's supposed to be in Ant-Man. They may just be taking the quantum realm to like the next level of what you can do with it.
Yeah,
maybe. I mean,
we'll have to see.
I just hope they don't get too messy with the MCU because they bring it in the multiverse now, and if they step up the quantum realm, to another step.
It has to be properly crafted.
Yeah.
If they do anything like how DC handled their live action multiverse, we're not gonna touch on it, but it wasn't great. But I think I don't know. I feel like the MCU plans very methodically. There is a method to their madness.
I agree.
I feel like they have all this stuff planned out. I think the only hiccup in their plans was Chadwick Boseman's death. But I think they have all this stuff planned out. And I think they're looking at us theorize like, yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, I just like you said, I definitely would agree that they definitely planned all this stuff out, but I just hope they plan smoothly. That's just all I hope they plan smoothly. Because doing this multiverse thing, it can get messy. But as long as they keep it, somewhat messy but a contained mess, I'm happy.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I think they got it. I think we're waiting for the execution. You plan, now let's execute.
Yeah,
and
all things considered, Phase 4 has been looking good so far, so I'm trusting that they're gonna handle it well.
Most definitely.
Yeah. I think they've been handling it very well, given the fact that they have these sideline series. Because through the Infinity Saga, we didn't have like series.
Nothing, and then
so now they're trying to manage series
can actually help build the MCU, which is a great thing.
So
it's a beautiful thing because then we get more of that universe without having to wait every few months or so for another movie to come out. It's just good.
For now, if it's, I guess I would say they've been balancing it well because none of these movies or series have collided with each other. They've been in their own little lane. Given they fit into this big central theme of the multiverse, none of them have started colliding with each other yet. So I would say they've been balancing it very well. I feel like what you're leading into, Ace, is that when shit hits the fan, when all of this stuff starts colliding, how well are they going to handle that?
Yeah.
That's true.
That's just what I'm waiting on to see. But I mean, Marvel took us through the whole 10 years of the Infinity Saga, so I'm pretty sure they're gonna take us through another 10 years or whatever they got. We're just gonna call it the Multiverse Saga for right now. And
yeah,
I'm just seeing, just glad to see where they take it and what they got in store for us. Because I did not expect them to bring out the multiverse after Endgame, because we was all wondering, what's after Endgame, or did they just pull out their pocket, boom, multiverse was good.
Well, they actually thought they were going to bring it out in Spider-Man Far From Home. The theories behind the trailers and stuff, they thought they were going to introduce the multiverse in that movie.
Yeah, because even Mysterio mentions I came from a different universe.
Yep.
As his little jokey joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. His jokey joke. So they snuck it in there, but I think it would be fair to say right now to call this the Multiverse Saga because of what's coming up.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what it is so far. At least that's what Phase 4 is, but we'll have to see what Phase 5 will be. But I mean, like I said, we're just gonna dub it the Multiverse Saga for right now. But I lost my train of thought. You can just continue.
That was pretty much all I had, unless McMillian, you had something else to touch on.
No, all in all, I'm here for the ride of the Phase 4. It has a great start so far, and I can't wait to see where it goes. Hopefully, the Xmen.
Or speaking of the multiverse, we might get. There's been some rumors that we might be getting Venom soon as well.
In the MCU,
that he might come from the Sony side to this.
It's
interesting because there has been talk over at Sony that they will eventually have a crossover with Tobey Maguire's. I mean, not Tobey Maguire.
Tom Holland's.
Tom Holland's. Thank you. Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's possible.
I don't know. I think it's going to happen on the other side. I think they're going to make the crossover to benefit their Spider-Verse and not make the crossover to benefit the MCU. That's my opinion. I don't think that they're going to...
It'd be interesting to see.
It'll be interesting to see, but I don't think they're going to sneak in Venom into Tom Holland's
they wouldn't
Spider-Man.
necessarily sneak him in, but I get what you're saying, though. But, I mean, whether Tom Holland goes over to Sony's universe or whether Venom comes over to the MCU, either way, it should still be a good time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind it.
I wouldn't mind it. It's the execution. Beautiful idea. Execution.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's important.
But that's all I had, guys. So I want to thank you both for joining the first official episode of the Blerd Mob. For those listening, make sure you follow us on social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at the Blerd Mob. That's at TheBlerdmob, and subscribe to us on YouTube by the same channel name. So that's it, and this is the mob checking out. Peace.
Hands up if you loving where you at, stand 10 toes down, shot ain't no looking mad. You can let them haters hate when they asking why I'm smiling, I just tell them life's great.